Good evening, Rajiv.
Good evening, Priyanka.
How are you today?
Wonderful, wonderful. I think
And
it's
how
great to be back again on another Thursday, and it's great to be here again.
interesting. And with the weather turning slightly cold in Delhi winter, let's introduce the OYF show. Where OYF, as we have now well established ourselves, stands for Own Your Future, and it is a space that is being built for you. A space that is being built for you, so you always have somebody to turn to. Conversations, power nuggets, studies, insights, toolkits, learning management systems, and a lot more. Commit to own that future of yours. And like our guest has today, Rajiv, what's the kind of power nugget that we are going to talk about?
Well, as always, our power nugget is full of data, full of relevance to what we really stand for. So here's today's power nugget. As per a study that ILO has done, very interestingly, over 60% of the companies that they studied and those who support gender diversity, they reported a 10 to 15% increase in profits. And it doesn't end here, Priyanka. 56% improved their talent retention. Going further, 55% jumped their reputation. And it doesn't stop. 54% showed more openness as a culture. So, guys and ladies, boys and girls, something very important here that wherever there is gender diversity, wherever women are accepted, women are able to do what they're meant to do, there is better performance, greater results. The only question that I think of, and that's the power nugget for us to think about, why the challenge then? What is still stopping people to do what is so clear, so obvious, right on their face? And today's session is actually going to be touching a lot about that. That women at workplace, what are the challenges and what are the realities around it? And we'll uncover that after this video and a short little introduction to the show. Over to you, Priyanka, and then we'll introduce the special guest we have for today's show.
I think what we're also going to touch upon is uncomfortable realities because that's what this guest is so well versed with. With that, I'll introduce our work and we call it the OYF show.
Well, here comes our guest, Dr. Raina Khatri, CEO of Right to Rise and the Foundation RKT. Well, welcome, Raina, and it's so nice to have you here. Just a few little words about you before we get started on our conversation. Well, she is a POSH expert, a POSCO expert, and by the way, a cybersecurity specialist too. Inspector is what she calls her. So, guys, better beware. And more than anything else, I think she is a wonderful human being. She really is committed to the causes that she stands for. And we're going to have a very fascinating conversation today as we bring around the most important thing of today's time: women at workplace, the challenges and realities. Welcome, Dr. Raina. And before we get into this wonderful conversation ahead, I want you to also just begin by telling us a little bit about your journey, your owning your future, and what got you to becoming the specialist that you are in POSH, POSCO, and who you are today. Over to you, Dr. Raina.
Thank you very much, Rajiv. Thank you very much, Priyanka. I think it's really a beautiful moment to be here at the OYF show. Uh, I was seriously thinking about what OYF show means today morning, and it after looking at it very closely, it said "Own Your Future." So I think I would be the first person telling you that it is most inspirational to be here on this show because that itself reflects who's the kind of person I am. Trying to take ownership of my own future at different intervals of my life. Yes, a little bit about me. Nothing very strange yet unique. Hi, Cheryl. Good to have you here. Um, so, what is Raina Khatri Tandon and where did she emerge from? Interestingly, a person who speaks 13 languages, born and brought up in the south part of India, though being a North Indian, the first thing a person asks me is, how come Chennai when you are basically a North Indian? And the answer to that is, I'm so sorry, you need to ask my forefathers who are no more. So, so interestingly, it goes back to generations where we always look for our answers, and these generation brings different perspectives. So, like Indrajit Singh sir says, it's addiction to me. I would say my legacy is an addiction to me that drives my future. So yes, born in a nice city with a very flourishing and a very broad-minded family. My mother and father have just given me one thing in my life, that always be a learner and continue your journey, never giving up. So this has started very small. Ever since I was young, my mom used to always make us do new things every summer, and that's where I got this what you call a kida, or you call a worm inside me, that I need to be creative in everything I do and need to be unique in whatever I need to give out to people. So whenever I even go up to creating programs or inventions or interventions or whatever you call them, though we have seen our journey changing, I always look as what can I do different to create this impact. And owning the future actually is something different, because you're putting your hands into nobody else but yours. The first thing is, let me tell you, I'm not lucky, I'm hardworking. I'm not lucky, I'm positively aligned to my future. And I'm not lucky, but I'm very ambitious about what kind of person I become at the end of the day. So, yes, born and brought up there. I did my engineering, so I'm an engineering person. And electronic and communication, that itself brought one breakthrough, because in spite of doing a computer engineering, which I wanted, I think life or destiny proved that I was meant to do ECE. And my mom still remembers saying that that was my first sacrifice. I would not actually call it a sacrifice or a challenge for a woman, but I would see how would you bring out opportunities from your challenges. So again, that is something that we unknowingly plunge into, which today I'm so happy, because having a PhD not only in embedded system and VLSI system design, that's my first qualification, but today also being a very proficient person in the field of law and doing my LLM at the age of 40, post which did my research from Brazil University into child psychology and human rights. So I would just say that age is no bar, and we don't have to scream out to tell that. We have to just go and achieve what we feel is good for ourselves. I'm sure in between there were varied journeys, from being the first person in my family going across borders, living a life of my dreams at UK where I didn't know anybody, to settle down, completing my master's, my PhDs, working there for a while, then coming back and pursuing the IT professional role, getting married, staying abroad for very many years again, with due privileges given by the family. I give all my credit to my husband, because he was abroad for some work. But yes, with every step I had, I'm sure the best was what to come, from experiences of people, stories of people, getting to know the language, indulging in some kind of activity. It could be as small as baking, to going back to your passion of painting, and to actually doing a lot of qualification work, where I say a person is built with what only you can derive from everything around you. So yes, yeah, 13 languages is only Inderjeet sir. So that's actually maybe less yet, but I still have a life to go on. So maybe by the end of my legacy, I'm sure I'll hit a world record, which is more yet to come. But yes, thank you so much
So,
for that. Yeah. Uh, but yes, what is different that makes me and why I have been here? So, like everybody else, I'm sure we hop, skip, and jump into different fields. Once we hit 35, once we hit 40, we think about what do we really want, or what is the purpose in our life. I won't call it niche, because I was really racking my brains when I wanted to find my niche. And somebody said, like the Ericsson bulb or like the apple that falls on your head, like Mr. Einstein had, or I mean, all these scientists have, you'll suddenly come out with your niche. I didn't have any of those weird moments. All I had was that I had situations that came time and again in front of my eyes through normal people around us, which made me realize that maybe I am meant for this because I stood very highly for ethics, dignity, rights. Uh, Maybe not only for women, because I see the pain even today in the men folk. So I would not say I'm totally feminist, but I would say that I look at it as a challenge in our society at large. So yes, why
Interesting.
posh and poxo is another story, but yes,
Yeah,
that's
interesting. Interesting.
what Raina Khatri Tandon is all. Be more relaxed, enjoy every perspective of life, and owning more towards a better future, a miraculous you.
So
Interesting.
13 languages only. I think that is a
Uh,
way. So is Russian one of them? Is that also something that
so,
gets
uh,
included?
so that's English, Hindi, Sindhi, a little bit of Malayalam, Telugu, because I born south, so I know some of the languages down south. Uh, Being in the Western culture, yes, I know German, French, and Finnish because I stayed in Finland for 8 years and in Europe for a few years. So those are those Western languages. Since I've been traveling a lot with people in Hubli and people at the West Bengal, so I kind of understand a little bit of their
Kannada.
cultured languages as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, Sindhi is my mother tongue. So you can start counting. You'll ultimately end up, yeah, Sindhi, Urdu, Punjabi. Those are mother tongues that you can never forget. So
Yeah.
yes, a lot of
Interesting.
them if I start counting. But
So
yes,
as
a
said,
little over the numbers. I think maybe 12 to 13. That's a little less yet. More to cherish and more to come.
I'm sure with that kind of
Yes,
dedication,
yes.
definitely more to come. And like Cyril
True.
says, it's science from the universe, but I'll start this conversation on a different note and I'll ask you, what would you have wished that did not happen? Although I kind of know the answer, but let's hear, let's see if I get it right.
Okay. So I'm going to tell a very, very different perspective. I think what I don't want. So your question was that what is that one thing you would like to change about yourself, right? Is what
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, what
looking
is it
at.
that you, yeah. Oh, you don't
So
have
the
to worry
one thing
about
that I
those.
would like to change is that or I would rather say the last thing that I would like to change is I'm too relaxed, so I do not want to change that. I always want to get up in the morning with that beautiful smile, uh, giving that cup of coffee, smelling those roses, getting that breath of air in the morning, smiling to myself and saying thank you for everything that I have been alive for, and listening to someone who is beside me trying to say something. So these are some of the things that I don't want to, but if I have to say one thing that I really want to change in myself is expectation. I'm sure we have a lot of expectations from others, and if I could stop uh, drawing that one thing from a lot of people who we feel that we don't want to expect, but yet we expect. Because personal and professional life somewhere connect us through our emotions, and emotions can never die in human beings. There's a few things connected to that is cutting off toxic people, which I
Hmm.
have consciously tried to do in the last 2 years. I just detach from them because
Yeah,
that does not allow you to move forward. In
yeah,
spite of trying to make people understand what is right or wrong for them in their own perspective, sometimes people fail to see that because of the surrounding or the people they are around. So stop talking to loved ones or stop taking loved ones for being granted. That's
yeah,
another important thing that I think when you have a loving husband, a more caring son, a very supportive family on either side who do so much for you, including your maids and your house help, sometimes we take things for granted. So yes,
yeah.
I tell them, yeah, I'm actually taking you for granted today, can you do this for me? But maybe yes, we should stop doing that sometimes. But yeah.
Interesting. I just sort of got you. You talked about if there was one thing you want to change, it was expectations. A very interesting thought came to me when you mentioned that. And my realization about expectations is actually a two-step process if you really think about it. One
Right.
is the root cause for expectations is attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm consciously not using the word detachment. I'm saying attachment is the root cause of expectations. And the second important piece, which I think so is very important for all of us to realize and recognize, is that if we discover our own selves and increase the quotient of self belief and self confidence, expectations either get evened out or they get managed. Think about
True.
that and see where it sort of allows you to sort of reflect on it, because having expectations is normal human nature, but ability to sort of recognize that where do you want to begin and what you want to do about it is something which just came to me, and I thought I'll just share that with you.
True, true.
Well,
That's a very, very beautiful point, Rajiv. In fact, sometimes I've always seen that our past allows us to decide on our future, but many a times we fail to forgive ourselves more than others because I don't know. I found it more easier to forgive others, but not forgive myself for certain things. That I could have been better at this position.
yeah,
So that's
we
where
will
I
come
said
back.
about
We'll come back to that.
expectation.
We'll come back. I think we're getting into a very interesting
Yeah,
space where I think we can have a very, very interesting
very
different
important.
conversation, and
True,
it's a very
true.
good conversation to have. And I think so we must have it. Probably we'll keep
Yes,
it for the green room for now, to make sure that we are able to do that.
absolutely.
Uh, Thank you very much, Rajkumarji, for joining in. I'm grateful for you being here. Uh, as we now shift our conversation into the topic for today, the topic being uh, a core area of something which is important, women at workplace. What are the real challenges and the realities? And I bring that out with the perspective of some of the data that I shared in the beginning of our conversation in the session that we started with saying that there are studies after studies, data points after data points that indicate that women at workplaces not only just give you better business, economic, value added results, but a lot of other tangible and intangible related benefits, which allow you to be able to build a better work culture, a better workforce, and all of that stuff. I think those are all realities. Uh, your work and what you sort of specialize in is in the area of POSH and POSCO, which has got to do with women at workplaces, their safety, their work. Uh,
Right.
as we dive into that, into today's topic of conversation, I just wanted to hear from you. Uh, for those who don't know specifically about this, and maybe it would be a good idea to sort of share in brief, what does this POSH and POSCO really mean? And what's the type of work you do? And then we'll get into the specifics around women at workplaces and what are the realities. And as Priyanka said in the beginning, we'll get into the real uncomfortable questions, which we are
Yeah.
specialists in, by the way.
I
So,
Yes.
always encourage. In fact, Rajiv kind of keeps reminding me that I'll get I'll get into trouble one day. But frankly, these conversations are better had, and these conversations are probably better had in open, so that there is a more true and a more rounded perspective. So tell us, and please kind of keep the diplomacy out of the window
yeah,
if you
and to start
can.
with, let
Absolutely,
us know about what the
absolutely
POSH and
veto.
POSCO is, and then we'll get into the
Yeah.
conversation.
So
Right.
say it the
So,
way it is. And
with telling you what is POSH and POXO, POSH is Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act for Women at Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition, Redressal. So this is basically an act that Government of India has devised, which supports the dignity and rights of women at workplace. So by which I strongly would say, and remember only one line that every woman talks about is I matter. I matter equally, not only and not if you feel, but not as long as my dignity is at stake. And that's full stop. I still remember this one lady who come up to me and said that why am I always being used like any other stuff that has been kept in the office or any other thing that is there at home. And I just asked her, why do you really think? Because she said that people don't realize what they communicate. And POXO is more about child abuse. As we speak on POSH, which is more on adults, POXO is prevention of children offenses, sexual abuse. So these are two different acts that government has been enforcing since 2012 and 2013, saying that we need to enforce safety to women folk, to children folk, whether it's in school, whether it's in colleges, MSMEs, in co-working spaces, in organizations, firms, NGOs, any workspace that you think, including the non-organized sector or the unorganized sector that we see, like politics, like maybe an acting space, where we don't have a boss kind of culture. But even those spaces are coming under this workplace. So as we see that, why I have probably come in here is because somewhere I resonated that my core is towards this kind of work, where I see the awareness, the compliance, and the auditing process coming in. What does Right to Rise do, which is our organization, is that it's India's first and only ISO 2117024 accredited body. It's not into only training. We play multiple roles of training, certifications, many different interventions, many code of conduct, HR systems that can be created as an ecosystem for every place to be safe. So if we are at a school, we look at how this can be incorporated at a whole, so that the society is trying to implement and get an outcome of it, and simply not look at it at a superficial level. So we specialize more into auditing and very specialized signature programs that help each of the individuals go and do it as a consultant or as a freelancer themselves, so that they don't have to even cling up to only Right to Rise all the time. They are a part of us always, and they shall be. But for every person, it's always important that their identity is drawn. And for me, identity is the key. Like we say, awareness and acknowledgement. I think every person likes to be known by their own name or by their own dream, and dreams are very, very dear to everybody. So if there is something to do with POSH and POXO of setting up those systems, then yes, Right to Rise comes into place. And it has everything to do with women and children, but that does not mean that the men folk are not being taken care. Yes, they do get covered in case they are a victim to it, but most of the portion has been covered by the HR systems rather than the act itself. So that's more about POSH and POXO. Um, Now, a little bit about the question that I think you asked, that, what challenges do women face at workplace? So I think the first challenge that women face at workplace is that they've not been accepted when they want to grow, and that's majorly because of the way they communicate and the way they showcase that what is their capability. I'm 100% sure every woman who is at every workplace is capable of an untapped or an incompetent potential which she has not yet shown, because of two things: fear, fear of maybe not being accepted the way she is internally or her core self, and two, that she feels that she's downgrading herself, or she feels that if um, she's okay to be where she is, even though she can do it. So the other challenges, of course, like representation of women at a board member or a high suit level, or being somebody at the organizational level. I think 17% of women are the only women who are on the top level, even now, senior most management positions. Gender gap in many uh, labor codes, if we see, I think it's only 77% again that we have been able to bridge that gap, and a lot more on race and ethnicity. So women bosses are still uh, they feel threatened when the man sees a woman on the top. So that is something that always a woman will keep facing, not because of culture or heritage or anything like that, but because I think at least Asians are built like that. They've never seen a lady sitting on the top and the man below, because we've never accepted the fact that we are equals. So equality is a very, very we can never be equal. And if we look at the perspective very deeply, we know that women are nurturers and kid bearers and a lot more things. We are like the power of Shakti. But when we look at men folk, I'm sure they can't be giving birth to a child. And there are very many things that somewhere, they are not equal. but they are competent in their own way, in the way they have been created by God. So that's how I feel that equality is a myth, yet it can be set only at workplace and not at every aspect in our life. So yes.
So I want to ask you something differently. Is it
Yeah.
is it something? And this is me saying as those this is me kind of talking as a girl and
Yeah.
as a lady for that reason. Do you, in your experience, find women holding themselves back for reasons best known to them? Is that something that you have seen and noticed? And that's part A of
Yes.
the question.
A lot of women come up and still try to prove that if they are pregnant, they are not capable. And I'm sure that even if they are pregnant, they become more powerful. I still remember when I was carrying, I was abroad, and I think I was working. I used to pick up my child from the daycare. I used to even go out for walks. I used to even skate. I used to do dancing. I used to do everything possible. Okay, if I can do it, I'm sure all women can do, because every woman is
So
capable of everything.
why? So my question is slightly deep rooted, and
Yeah.
it's something that I want to actually build on.
Hmm.
The question has two phases, and the first one I want to bring to you is that okay, agreed that there would be people who would convince themselves, or their mothers, or their society will try to convince, or their immediate circle of social trust will convince them that okay, so you're pregnant and you're not to do this. Isn't it okay for them to say yes? Because that kind of does not disturb the apple cart. That kind of
Yes.
keeps the apple cart the way it is. And who am I to say that she should be any better or any worse? So she's saying that I'm pregnant. Everybody around me encourages me to not be very ambitious at this stage in life. Is that okay? And if it's not okay, then why is it not okay?
See, with the same idea that you're saying, this outlook is there in many women. When we look at sexual harassment, if I have to carry the same outlook or the same perspective that you're giving, there are women who are being abused or harassed, or when we see even at domestic violence, right? We see that they carry this look. If I'm okay with this, it's okay. Now you have given me a perspective that yes, if a lady is pregnant and she's okay not doing something, is it not okay to just be let her be the way she is?
Yeah, that's the question.
It's perfectly okay if you feel that's okay for you. But over a period of time, you will start getting you'll start questioning yourself, can I not do something else? I'm not saying that when you are at 25 or 30 or at 35 when you're carrying, you might feel that perspective, but when you reach your 40 and 45, you would say, oh, I could have done something better when I was at that age, which I am not able to do now. And every woman, at least I can talk of the women folk, every woman feel the urge of doing something much better, also because of a reason that they are surrounded by women who are breaking glass ceilings. Not everybody is okay with that. If you look at our mothers don't want to do anything out of the way. Okay, they're okay with doing what they are, and they're doing it perfectly
Very well.
proficiently, and they don't have to come out of their shell. But that was an era where this was how their life is. But now in the 22nd century, we have so much of competition, especially on you have social media, you have societal pressure, you have people. The first thing that a lady is asked even after she's married, and she's highly educated, let me tell you, she's postgraduate. So after she's highly educated, the first thing she's been asked is, okay, it's been 1 year to your wedding, have you not got a baby? Or are you working? And if somebody says, no, no, I'm happy sitting in my house, and I really love that me time and the space I get, because I have a lot of knocker, chakar, I have a lot of people around me who take care of everything around me. So people start looking at her like a weird alien. Oh my God, how does she spend a whole day? Okay, here I go to work and I come back and I still don't feel that I need to do more. It's like that. There are different kinds of people with different mindsets. So sometimes I am saying that people who are okay to do that, it's okay. But there are people who come under pressure after a period of time, and then they feel that there is a challenge that I should have addressed earlier.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rana, I just want to, sorry to interject here. I just want to bring in
Yeah.
another perspective to this, and I completely appreciate the fact that it's so very important for women to feel empowered within. And that's something I briefly touched upon in something that we were conversing about
Yes.
earlier. And I just want to refer to one or two very important pieces here, which are, I think, so very relevant with the subject that we are touching upon and things that we are doing. And going back to a comment that Indrajit just now said, he says men should pack up and go to Mars. It was a very interesting comment that he made. And I think the interesting point that I believe is very important here is that it's not about a men's view or a women's view here. I think that's the first point I want to make.
Yes.
And this is not about equality that we are referring to here. I think the core subject that is, I think, so very relevant at this point in time is that data tells us something very different. The reality is something very different. The future opportunities that lie for the change to really get impacted because of the generational shift that has happened is of a different nature. So I'm not talking about a three-dimensional picture. I'm talking of data which shows that women, if they do something in the right manner, it delivers better profitability, better organization culture, better retention. And there have been studies after studies, independent bodies across the
So,
world, which have
Rajiv,
only proven that.
we've talked about this so many times. So, why is there so much of difference between what you present versus reality? Because I
Yeah,
just used to.
that's exactly where I'm coming to. So therefore, that's one part of it. The second part of it is that there is this rhetoric, and I'm using that word rhetoric, which I qualify, and I've said that in a few posts of mine, and I've said it many a time again, and for the sake of being bashed up for it, I will again say it. There is enough of lip service that has been happening around this, right?
Yeah,
And to your point, right, there is
yeah,
enough of lip service that's been happening around this. Now let's come to the core subject here. The core subject to me is there are only two ways that this can be dealt with. Number one, regulation, legal system, frameworks which give you boundary conditions and people start feeling safe in them, or they don't feel safe, that time will tell us. But more importantly, what I believe is something which is more fundamental to us as human beings is, am I willing to accept? And now here I'm talking about as men and women together.
Yes.
Women need to believe more in themselves, point number one. Men needs to believe in the fact that it's not a subject of equality. It is a subject of having a seat on the table and a voice which is equal. Whatever may be regulation, whatever may do you may do with posh, if you don't have your colleague sitting next door and be next to you on the same table being considered as equal, no rule of law can change anything. That's the point that I have. And to me,
Absolutely.
the real challenge is actually breaking through the women getting to believe in themselves more and men to believe in the fact, saying that they don't need to go to Mars in a lighter note, as Indrajit rightly said, but they need to be recognizing the fact that they have a companion, they have somebody next door who is as capable, if not more, who can do well. How does that happen? To me, that reality has to be
yeah.
brought to life.
I think that
So
reality is. I think we should kind of share our
so
thoughts on how
so that's
that.
that's where my
So,
point is, and I think so Rajkumar ji says a very valid point. Equality comes when there is financial independence. The more women become financially independent, more women get more aware about this whole element. I think the whole power will actually the whole power swing will happen. it's
true.
it's it's very fine to say that. In fact, I was reading a very interesting survey the other day, which said that by 2030 60 million women need to be reskilled to be able to make sure that they are able to perform better than where they are at this point in time. So look at the
True.
opportunities there. So when I said women at workplace, challenges and opportunities, to me, the challenge is actually in the fact laws alone will not help. Mindsets have to change. The
Absolutely.
opportunities is in terms of what can I do to make sure that that change that is required, I am a participant of that, not an observer of it. That's my view. So I don't know what's your experience
So,
around it, Ryan.
absolutely. I'll just share two stories here where you will get the answer yourself. When I had hit one of these engineering colleges, which is not very far away at Kandivali, there was this one boy who was 16 years old and he was undergoing an abuse of almost 4 to 5 months from his colleague. Now, this is a guy who's 16 years old, and post my session, he walks up to me in the middle of 300 people and says, I want to talk after we finish the session of 1 hour. And he tells me how this girl actually touches him on weird places when they are traveling back in the bus. And after I asked him, why did you not speak up? He said, because
This is nice.
I know nobody would actually trust me. I tried going back to my family and telling my sister about it and telling my parents about it, and they only trusted that I would have done something and not the girl. Then I went back to my HOD, and even though they had a women development cell or a women safety cell, yet he felt that the HOD would not do anything. And if he would go to the principals, he knows very well that he would get rusticated. Now, with the challenges that you're saying, I attended this course with NSCREL and IIMB Bangalore with India SME Forum in the last 3 months. I just completed that. It's all about starting a new venture, do your own venture. So there were around 623 women, and the biggest challenge that they have been facing is they don't know anything about rules, constitution, even Aadhaar card. आज की दुनिया में हम मोस्टली काफी नॉर्थ इंडियन फैमिलीज में देखेंगे. दिस वाज नॉट द सीन ओनली टुडे. आई थिंक व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड माय करियर इनटू ट्रेनिंग एंड कोचिंग, which was 4 years back, that time there was a networking meet of women, and from that day to this day, women are not even jumping up to see where they don't know the paperwork. They fear that either their own families are not going to allow that, or they don't even want to go and learn the trade. But there's a difference between doing the implementation but first learning the trade. And like you said, the women at the village level are much more faster at it rather than the urban world,
Yeah.
because there are pressures from the family itself. So this is not about a challenge that only a woman is facing. This is all about a mindset change. And like we already know, life is an exam. So the syllabus is not the same for you and me. Okay, the model question papers are different for Priyanka, for Rajiv ji, for me, or for anybody else. So the mindset change has nothing but the power that each one of us have to fight. We have to fight with our own people, our own cultures, our own situations. And even if it's easy for me to tell my mate today that you need to go back and fight with your husband who is drinking and he doesn't understand that you are earning but giving him the money, yet it's very difficult because, like you said, rules, regulation, laws are there. But how many of us actually follow it? How many of us actually wear the mask? How many of us actually wear the seat belt? How many of us actually wear the helmet? In spite of we telling time and again. So reforms are not just the only thing that will change the world. It's all about how much of it are we agreeing to come out of our comfort zone and make the change. So when we say impact makers, when we come on this and say we own the future, a lot has been done by our organization going at even the root level and talking to these women. And I have seen the women from the mid level and the ground level, like the laborers and all of them. They are quite daredevil sometimes to pick up and say, "Didi, मैं करूँगी, at least मैं try करूँगी." लेकिन बाकी जो घर के हमारे लोग होते हैं ना, वो इट्स लाइक सेइंग घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर. कभी कभी आपको सीरियसली नहीं लेती है जब तक आप एक सोसाइटी में बैठ के उनको दिखाते नहीं हो कि आप कितनी पावर रखते हो और आपके शब्दों में कितना पावर है. जैसे मलाला यूसुफी उठ के बोली थी कि वन पेन वन स्वॉर्ड वन वर्ड can change the world. I'm sure we need hundreds of those Malalas, and we, or I would say I don't even know about we. I know we have so many certified professionals about in the last few years, but I can talk about me that I am on this journey of creating those change makers, whether it's man or women. And like we said, that every time we are working into doing a compliance and we see even the little thing of a man trying to do anything to a woman, or a woman, now I would not even talk about man doing anything to a woman, because it's all about all genders doing anything to the other gender. Okay, I have 100% seen so many men undergoing the weirdest violence through the communication of a woman. So I'll not even blame it just on a man. That's why I say that the laws are made for dignity, rights, and respect for women at workplace, for a safe and enduring,
I think it should be.
productive workplace. But we need to see the other picture, my friends. The change of the entire system. It's the upside down, or we say the topsy turvy, because we've always been saying women break the glass ceiling, women break the glass ceiling, and
Yeah.
we've given them enough power. But we fail to realize that the power is given by the man itself for you to stand on top of his head. So do
Yeah.
not jump on his head and say, yes, I've made it. In fact, hold the hand and say that women bosses can be nurturing, resilient, and ladies of power. But yes, today I have been successful in changing the mindset and creating achievements, degrees, power, position only because the man was there with me alongside. So, yes, the mindset change is a big thing to say, but if I tell you about statistics that are 3 months back and today, the number of abuse cases in the last 3 months have not increased but still are at the equivalent place. And 3 months back, it was rising even though we were in pandemic. So yes, with more and more years to come, since 2013, since the act has come, at least in the last 3 4 years, we see quite a lot of awareness happening. But awareness is not good enough. Like I said,
Yeah.
if I tell you something, unless and until you're not going to take action, then we don't have anything to play as a role. So awareness हम आप और सारे लोग कर सकते हैं, लेकिन जब तक ये challenges, obstacles realities में नहीं बदल जाती और ये reality एक ड्रीम कम ट्रू नहीं बन जाता, तब तक हमारे बीच कोई मतलब
I
नहीं है.
agree. I mean, one question that comes to my mind is that while there are these frameworks, there are these regulations, at the level of the Indian corporate organization structure, while there are these big brands that would follow because they have a lot to do with their brand, but they want to protect it, they want to make sure they're on the right side of law. What happens in the MSME, in the small scale business scenario? How serious are they about it? What's been your experience about that? Are they consciously taking steps, or because the bulk of our workforce is actually there,
Yeah.
right? And whether it is awareness or it is not awareness, they're the people who neither have a voice nor they have an ability to sort of go there. So what's been your experience on that segment of it?
So a little bit about that area is that see, there are again different kinds of people. If I look at a lot of people down south, because they give more importance to education. If you look at a lot of south people, they are more aligned to their study, their knowledge, their growth, rather than probably spending on their food and their other expenses. Okay, even taking out their kids abroad and things like that, we still have that culture in us. So even when it comes to compliances, अगर मैं आपको पूछूं कितने लोग अपना जीएसटी आज भरते हैं जेन्युइनली, जितना वो टैक्स भरते हैं, वैसे ही ये compliance है कि we have celebrities who don't pay their taxes completely also, and we have people who are very legally fulfilling all the compliances as per law. So with MSME also, there are people who are known to this. We do a lot of awareness through a lot of networking groups. In fact, very many big networking groups, I don't want to take their names. We do a lot of programs, we go to them, we tell them. But to take the plunge, it's again going back to an individual's mindset, not to an MSME or to a government or to a, because I have actually done a session for the Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha. Okay, so we are one of the organizations who have been very very privileged to do something for the Parliament House, where we have done the awareness for almost 6 locations pan India for them. दिल्ली से लेके उनके बहुत सारे जगहों के उनके ऑफिशियल्स को हमने ट्रेन किया है, विच इज अ वेरी वेरी ऑनरेबल मोमेंट फॉर अस. बट अगर वो कर सकते हैं तो फिर छोटे एमएसएमई तो कर ही सकते हैं. लेकिन अगर मैं तराजू में तोलने की कोशिश करूं, इफ आई हैव टू वे डाउन a big organization versus an MSME, then I would say organizations, private limited companies, LLPs have to follow it because it is a mandatory thing for everybody. But when you compare schools or organizations which are less than, say, 20, then there are lesser number who will go and implement, because most of them are proprietorships, and
Yeah.
proprietorship is not even something which is on paper. A lot of people even work from home like freelancers. So somebody who's running a saloon, or somebody's who's selling watches or designer suits or anything to do with cosmetics, I'm sure even that person earns a lot, but she's not paying her taxes. So at the end of the day, all those things are a loss to the government. And again, the compliances of Bosch also is for their safety and their workers. Lekin, so I think we were discussing this on call even yesterday, Rajivji, that even though there is a lady who had served me in a saloon, and there is an incident that happened just outside the saloon where a person is staring at her from top to toe, and every person who comes out to that saloon, he does is waits outside and glares or stares at that person from top to toe, and nothing can be done because इंडिया में अगर लॉ बहुत ही स्ट्रिक्ट होता, if everything was as per norms of the law, then I'm sure that these things would not reoccur and we didn't need so many act or laws. I
Yeah.
think everything would be safe. The only need and why it is happening is because everything has been somewhere loosely not knotted up. I won't say where, but I know that you and me understand that nothing has been strictly in the reins of law. So once that is
Yeah.
perfectly done, I'm sure things will fall in place. But we are good to go at least from the years to come. We have lot many people who are following it as a
Yeah,
compliance.
absolutely. Absolutely. It
Yeah.
could have
Yeah.
been worse. I think that's the
So,
good
Yes.
news.
so
Yes, that is.
before I take your closing remarks, Rajiv, I want to ask Reina to share with us three things that for all entrepreneurs who listen to this conversation now and later should keep in their conscious to-do list, and what are the three things that she's advising to make workspaces so safe for women. Actually, that's the question, but frankly it's really safe workspaces, and I consciously try to kind of stay away from this distinction of men, women, why it is only about women, why only women need empowerment, how only sexual harassment is a woman problem. I completely agree with us when we say that harassment is harassment, and it is not a woman problem. We are fewer of us in the workspace and in the corporate sector. There are reasons to that. The debate on should that change is like throwing a cat between the
Yeah,
pigeons, because there
absolutely.
are two sides to it,
Yeah.
and there
And
are
that's a journey. And
there,
that's a
it's
journey,
a
actually.
journey, and frankly, yes, there should be more women in the corporate sector. Is the way forward is not a resounding yes for many reasons. So, as much as I'd love my job, and as much as I'd love to be paid better, and as much as I'd love to kind of be on the boardroom table, there are realities of the world that we have to accept, and it's not something that you should be shy about. That said, the question is, what are the three things, Reina, you want people to remember when they're designing safe workspaces?
So this is for everybody. I won't be telling it only for men or women because everybody is in a workspace. Be
Yes.
willing to be uncomfortable. Be as uncomfortable, whether it is learning, whether it is speaking up, whether it is getting tough, whether it is living your dream. So if you are uncomfortable, I'm sure growth happens at the end of the comfort zone, like we always say. Because even when you are undergoing abuse or harassment, I think the first thing that we always say is try to give yourself a chance. So I would say be comfortable to become uncomfortable because growth happens at the end of the comfort zone. Number two, you are all born unique. So don't waste this life. I'm sure I believe in only one agenda: live life to the fullest and do everything that you feel can make you a most capable person. So, whether you're a man or woman, whether you want to hit the boardrooms or whether you want to just love doing what you do, please stay in that confidence. Don't try to squeeze into somebody's zone. Don't try to be somebody else, just be yourself because that's the only person you would love. Even if you lose your uniqueness and do something else, you'll never be that person. So that's the second one. And the third one is I think it's great to be flawed. Some people come back and ask me, why am I not like this? Why am I not like this? And, why are you like this? Why is your hair like this? Why are you so beautiful? In fact, I always keep hearing these things that, why am I not like you? Or why are you not like her? Or why are you not like Tony Robbins? And I still remember when I started my journey, I used to have a huge crush for all the people who we look up to. But today, I just draw inspiration from very many leaders, and I don't want to be like anybody else. I just want to be like myself. So I might be sometimes crooked, sometimes flawed, but I like it because that's the way I am. That's the way I'm built, very unique. And yes, just bring out the best potential in you. I'm sure you'll shine like a star. Thank you.
Interesting, interesting. So I want us to recall what we've discussed, and I want us to recall the little bits. Something that's extremely interesting that I want to carry from this conversation, that it's not about men or women, and that it's not about empowerment for women. So let's kind of, it's a difficult question to answer as to where should that distinction stop to exist. But frankly, I take away the fact that let's respect ourselves as people, try to be ourselves, and try to be okay with not being okay and be uncomfortable. Rajiv, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would sort of just summarize this wonderful conversation we've had, which actually has sort of gone from uh, discovering what probably the legal system needs to be, what needs to be around the frameworks that are available to people as the regulations, what people are trying to do around them, and also diving into the element about saying that, as you also said, Priyanka, that it's not about women alone. It's about safe spaces that are important for everybody so that there is mutual respect and mutual growth opportunity for everybody. I just want to sort of sign off here by saying that whatever is important for success, whether it is men or women, needs to be in focus. I think that's something very, very key here. And in this, I just want to go one step further into saying success as defined by the need of each individual, whoever he or she may be. And I think that resonance is something which probably is the bedrock of a safe, secure space. If the organization recognizes what is the uniqueness of each individual and what success alignment happens between the organization and the individual, automatically what gets created is a safe space. And that safe space is something which differentiates what I call as successful organizations from those who are striving for success. One measure that companies don't have on their balance sheets is safety of workspaces. If you ask me honestly, if the law has to be made, there is one thing that, like you measure other metrics, there has to be a workspace safety index created. We do various surveys today, but there is no workspace safety index. The moment
Yeah,
that
there's a
measure comes into
happy.
place,
Yeah,
there are happiness indexes, there is customer satisfaction index, there are so many indexes. Where is the workspace
Yeah, the
safety
safety
index?
index. True.
What is that measure? Because only then, because organizations and leaders work on KPIs, what gets measured gets done.
yeah.
So
What
the
gets
moment it
me?
starts getting back into a mechanism of this nature, I tell you, work cultures, alignment of thoughts, actionabilities will start happening. That's my take out of this. So on this note, that I think we're better than where we could have been. There is a long way to go. This conversation is a never-ending conversation, but these conversations and these voices that we raise is probably one small step in that effort to tell people that the right things are happening, but there is lots more that is to be done. And I think that's probably where we are. So thanks a lot, Raina, for this wonderful conversation. And I'm sure we'll have more of these. Uh, and wish you all the success in your journey. And if there's any way that we can contribute in your journey, count us in as your
As your
partners in
partners?
success. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful conversation. I think it was really value added. I'm sure the viewers and the all the people who are going to view this at the end of the discussion as well, since it's live, if they have any queries, it would be so much the need of the hour that we all stand up for it together and create this mindset shift. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank you
this
very much. And thank you
amazing
very much to
conversation.
all our viewers who've participated so actively. Some wonderful leaders, wonderful minds who've been participating with us. Rajkumarji, Indrajit, Cheryl, Lakshmi, and many more. So thank you very much. Thanks for the encouragement and keep guiding us. Thank you.
Thank you.